I will now speak with Miodrag Milićević, the Executive Director of NGO Active, which works within the Serb communities of Kosovo. Good afternoon, Miodrag, and thank you for joining me. I'm in Albania, and I've heard much of the Albanian position and stance and that of the politicians, but I haven't heard much from the Serbian community. Now, I have this idea of a deeply divided community where ethnic tensions run high. How far or how near is this to the truth?
So as your question actually pointed rightfully, we are deeply segregated society and the community, very much divided communities. Of course, in Kosovo, and sadly speaking, 23 years after, the dominant narrative in the public spectrum basically goes over divisive narratives from both sides. Sadly, what we've been witnessing in the last year and a half was obviously leading to something we are witnessing these days, and these are serious consequences of multiple wrong decisions made predominantly by this government. So since last year until nowadays, the security situations has been deteriorated with number of different incidents, obviously linked to security-related issues. Obviously, political narrative on both sides was not really promising either. So that all this actually has brought us to the situation where we are.
Let's not talk about the demands of politicians. Rather, can you tell me, what does the Serb minority in Kosovo want?
These days, that doesn't have any difference when it comes to the opinions of the Kosovo Serb community versus politicians. Those demands were pretty much similar, if not the same. If it's not the same, they're very, very much similar. So they all are demanding from the Kosovo government to withdraw the special police forces from the north, not only from the buildings, but from the north entirely. And I have to underline and highlight this, what I have said, not the regular police presence, but a special police unit whose deployment caused a lot of damages between the local population and the Kosovo government. And that is actually our biggest headings also of the international community these days. So what community, Serbian community, not only in the north, but in the entire Kosovo wants is actually peaceful environment, enabling environment for their not only well-being, but for their actually future, of course, a normal livelihood, of course, that is very much lacking, not only these days, but in all these 20 years or so.
I'm really interested to know what sparked the recent unrest. Is it all Kosovo's fault? Is it Serbia's fault? Or is there blame to be shared between both sides?
Both sides in this process could have done way better than they did so far. But the actual crisis in the northern part of Kosovo is the sole responsibility of the Kosovo government and the Prime Minister Kurti. So his decisions, basically, which is namely the Kosovo government decisions to, instead of deploying political envoys well in advance, of course, they decided to deploy the special police forces to northern part of Kosovo, completely disrupting and diminishing basically the way the political, communication with the local populations, including the local leaders. There were several missed opportunities, but the key one is basically the Ohrid talks and the agreement that emerged out of those negotiations, Sadly, they failed to address the by far the most important issue, and that was basically over the participation of the return and participation of Serbs, not only in the elections, but their return into the Kosovo institutions.
Now, there are reports of individuals with links to crime and politics being placed within the protests to cause escalation. And there's also allegations of the involvement of Wagner Group and the appearance of the Russian Z symbol around protest areas. What's your stance on this?
Neither letter could undermine the genuine needs of the people and the communities in the north. That Z letter, there are, of course, some individuals who are obviously very much committed to the Russia, etc. However, vast majority of protesters comes actually from ordinary citizens, from doctors, professors, teachers, and others. So those letters sadly could be really emphasized inside media, but cannot undermine the real request and the genuine request that is very much actually needed these days. I already communicated so many times our concerns, which means the community concerns, to the Prime Minister directly, to First Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Bislimi, and a number of other international stakeholders, giving them an early warning well in advance that we are gradually but surely getting into the conflicting situation that could have a number of different kind of consequences. So sadly speaking, despite of these all early warnings made not only by me, but by also several civil society activists, I'm underlining this as a very important element, civil society activists, that was not really, I would say, seriously received or not really contributed to the overall understanding of the situation where we are.